Welcome to Week 8 of the Mountain Valley News Pigskin Preview. I'm Monk Blevins.
And I'm Logan Wright.
And we're here with you again this week, and we're going to talk a little high school football. Logan, man, can you believe we're 8 weeks in already?
No, and it seems like everything is kind of summing up. And, I'd like to say we're kind of getting to see where everybody's going to be in the playoffs, but we're still not there yet. I mean, we kind of have an idea of who's going to make it to the playoffs, but we still don't know where everybody's going to be sitting and who's going to have home field advantage and so on.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let's just go ahead and we'll break down the games for this last week. And, the first one we want to talk about, we talk about Crossville and, how they've improved over the year. Well, they had to travel down to Guntersville this last week. And, and they come away with a big loss. Guntersville beat them 49-6. They were held to 108 total yards. They had 60 yards on the ground and 48 yards in the air. So, again, this Guntersville team, and we talked on our scoreboard show about them, how good they are. And so what's your thoughts on this Crossville team as they get ready? I think next week they'll be playing Etowah, who is a very good football team I think the quarterback is already committed to Arkansas. So what's your thoughts on this Crossville team?
Well, Crossville, they already have more wins than we thought they were going to get this year, so they're already, off on the right foot. And they're still fighting for a playoff spot, actually. They still have a chance to make it to the playoffs. Unfortunately, their home stretch of their season is their harder stretch. They had a tough loss last night against Guntersville. And when I was in high school, we had goals. I played defense, and we always had a set number of goals. And our coach would come through and put a star by it on Saturday if we had the goal. And one of the goals was always to hold the opposing offense to at least 150 yards. Not to let them get more than that. So anytime you can do that, most of the time you win the ball game, and that's exactly what Guntersville did. Unfortunately for Crossville, Etowah has a very, very powerful offense. I got the opportunity to watch them play Fort Payne, and Fort Payne almost beat them, but the reason they didn't was because, man, that quarterback can make some plays. And you get to focusing in on that quarterback, and you kind of become one-dimensional on defense, and you're looking for pass.
Right.
And they have a running back that can hurt you too. He took one, I believe it was like 98 yards against Fort Payne for the touchdown.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you're talking about Crossville and how they played Gannon Porter, who was the Mountain Valley News Player of the Week last week. Again, he was kind of held in check this week. He passed for 48 yards, and I think he had about 20-something yards rushing. So, it's just a tough night for Crossville, and man, they are improving. And I know when you look at this score, a lot of people think, well, they're not improving a whole lot, but they really are. This team is playing better and better each week, and they're just, man, their region that they're in right now is very good, and and they're just building this program. So hopefully they continue to improve, and next year we may see them competing in this region.
And hopefully get a playoff spot as well.
Absolutely. Next game we want to talk about is the Fort Payne Wildcats, and man, I tell you, they had to travel down and face a huge, very good Oxford football team this week, and when they were defeated 35-10. Of course, Roger Engel called in on our scoreboard show and talked to us about, he said that Oxford they kind of pulled back a little bit in the fourth quarter, and this Oxford team is loaded with talent.
Yes, I believe they have the number one linebacker recruit in the state, and man, he is a beast. Let me tell you, I have a friend that coaches at Oxford, Clay Gorham, and he showed me some of his highlights. Man, this is a scary man. I wouldn't want to play against him. And Oxford, coming into this game, is actually ranked number 3 in the state.
Yeah, very, very good football team. And, for Fort Payne, a couple of bright spots. McPherson hit a 23-yard field goal, and the Ellis kid threw a 12-yard touchdown pass to Colton Wells late in the football game to get their 10 points on the scoreboard. But, this Fort Payne team is sitting at 0-7 right now, which is just absolutely unheard of. But it is a rebuilding year for Fort Payne, and so I know when the schedule doesn't get any easier. If they go down to Albertville this week, then they have to travel down to Pell City the following week, and then they're back home to finish up the season with Anniston. So man, you look at that schedule, and it's hard to see a win in what they have left.
And you really hate to see that. A lot of people saw Brewer as the 100%, that was going to be their one win, so they would get a win this season. Brewer came out and, let me tell you, shocked some people.
Oh, absolutely.
From what I'd heard about Brewer, I didn't think that they were going to be that great of a football team, but I got to cover that game as well. And let me tell you, those boys wanted to win. They were diving forward, they were making diving tackles out of bounds. They were just really showing grit and hustle and how bad they wanted to win. And I'm not for sure if Fort Payne was the underdog in that game, but it really felt like they thought they were entitled to that win. And that was probably the worst game I've seen Fort Payne play.
Oh yeah. That was a tough loss for Fort Payne, and again, looking down the schedule, it's not going to get any easier for the rest of the season for Fort Payne. But they need to continue to work hard, and they're building this program for the future. So, I know that they don't want to hear those kind of things right now. These kids, especially the seniors, and I know they wanted to finish on a high note, and hopefully, this would make their season if they could travel down to Albertville this week and upset Albertville on their home field. That would make a season for Fort Payne. So again, it's been a tough season for them. So maybe they get it together this week and put some points on the board and give Albertville all they want. The next game we want to talk about is Sylvania and Geraldine, and Sylvania ended a 4-year losing streak against Geraldine on Friday night. So big win for Sylvania, big region win. The score of that game was 28-7. So what's your thoughts on this Sylvania team as they get ready to face off with Plainview this next week in another huge region game and a huge rivalry game?
Well, I was really proud of Sylvania because Sylvania is one of those teams. They're a great football team, don't get me wrong, but they find ways to lose ball games. They have trouble with penalties and fumbles and just stuff that shouldn't be happening this late in the season.
Oh, absolutely.
But they really seem to put it behind them. I believe that I would consider Sylvania the favorite going into that game against Geraldine, and they really played like it. Like, they went out and played like the Sylvania team that we all expected.
Oh,
they have a great running back in Caleb Roebuck, and he continues to perform. I can't even count how many times we gave him the Mountain Valley News Player of the Week the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But he really is. He's a great athlete. He's a very good offensive weapon for them. They have Dylan Dacus at quarterback, and he's made some throws for him. They said he had a great game Friday night. He was very accurate, and that's probably one of the reasons they came out with such a big victory over Geraldine.
Oh, absolutely. Again, like you said, I think both of those had an outstanding game. And talking with Coach Putnam, on our scoreboard show, and the offensive line played well. Defense stepped up and held Geraldine to 7 points, and so it was a big win. And we talked about this. We've talked all year about this Sylvania team. If they could get eliminate some turnovers, eliminate the penalties, that they've got the talent to win some football games. So sounds like they are getting on track now, and they're starting to believe they can win. And I know that's been probably an issue for them because they haven't won in so long. And so it's going to be a huge game for them as Plainview travels up to Sylvania this week. And the Sylvania Rams want to knock off Plainview this week. So that's going to be a great football game. And jumping right into Plainview, we'll talk about them. They traveled over to Brindley Mountain, and they won that ball game 48-7. And it was just a good game, a good solid win for Plainview, and getting ready for next week. And they were able to play some young kids, and so the defense continues to play really good for Plainview. So it's going to be a great matchup with Sylvania. So what's your thoughts on Plainview as they get ready to travel to Sylvania?
Well, Plainview had a bye week before going in to Brindley Mountain, and basically that means they had 2 bye weeks in a row. But Plainview's defense has shown that it's a very, very good defense, and I think that's one of the things that mark a great team is how well your defense plays. Defense wins games, as Bear Bryant used to say. Now, the other thing, your defense doesn't really score that many points even if they're a great defense, and for Plainview to go and compete with Sylvania, they're going to have 4 quarters of offense. And we look at the past games, they haven't really done that. If you look at the Fife game, I believe they're down 7-0 at halftime. If Plainview's offense wakes up for that ball game, maybe Plainview's up at halftime, and then who knows, they compete for the rest of that game. Who knows how it lays.
Oh, absolutely.
So Plainview just really needs to focus on getting 4 quarters of offense in because they have the weapons with Dylan, what's his last name, tight end, defensive end?
Scott.
Dylan Scott. He's a great athlete. I believe he's like 6'5". He can go up and catch the ball. They probably have the best receiving core of anybody around here. I think their receiving core is even better than Collinsville. They have Cade Willingham, who's another great Y tight end, and he can catch the ball. They have Jacob Wooten, who's caught a touchdown pass this year, who's another great tight end. So that's 3 tight ends that can start anywhere in the county.
Oh,
right
absolutely. There. And, just looking at the stats, Bailey Dukes had a great game and, threw for a couple and I don't remember the yardage, but he had a couple of touchdown runs. Colton Farmer played well on defense. Of course, Wooten played well on defense. And so this Plainview team seems to be gelling right here at the right time. They got a pretty good stretch coming up with Sylvania this week, and then they got a big game with New Hope to finish up the region. And, if they can win both of these games, they can lock up that second position at the, and get to play that first round game at home, which is huge, and that's one of the things you need to, that most teams are trying to work themselves into getting that first round at home.
And I think it's crazy that Sylvania, there's a possible way that Sylvania can still end up in second place.
Yeah.
So it really is that 3A Region 7 is it's such a toss-up, and you never know where anybody's going to be. We may not even know next week. Next week we may be for sure which 4 teams will be there, but we still don't really know where they're going to be seated.
Yeah, that is correct. The next game, we want to talk about, and man, what a huge win for Pisgah Eagles as they defeated New Hope, and I think the final score on that was 36-33, if I'm not mistaken. And this Pisgah team, they just continue to impress.
Yes, they do, and I'm really happy because we've been talking about it in the show week in and week out how good we think Pisgah could be, and we were wondering why they haven't. And felt like their play call was really safe, especially with a good a quarterback as they have in Audie Smothers. But man, Pisgah is starting to play like we knew they could, and you really wish this could have happened, week 2 or 3. But at least it's happening for them. At least they have something to hang their hat on when they look back at their senior season. We beat New Hope. Who knows? I believe they have North Sand Mountain coming up this week, and that'll be another huge game. So they've already knocked off the number 2 team in the region right now, and they weren't even in the playoff talk. I'm not for sure. I think they're out of the playoff picture. It's a real close deal, but they may be able to slide in a squeaker, as you like to say. But just hats off to them, because I am so happy that Pisgah finally started to play like we knew they could. And they're actually our Mountain Valley News Team of the Week this week too, correct?
That is correct, and congratulations to the Pisgah Eagles on a huge win. I mean, again, this was just a big win for this program, and as they get ready for North Sand Mountain, another big region game, plus it's a big rivalry game, and so Pisgah is playing with a little bit of momentum right now.
Yes, and I have to say, I called it. I'm the only one in the paper to pick Pisgah over New Hope. This is my upset pick. And I don't have those very often, but I was like, I'm going to go out on a limb because I know that this team has the potential to do this. And, I really wish it would have happened earlier because, I'll say it. I think he's the best quarterback in that region.
Oh, absolutely. I think you're exactly right. We haven't talked near enough about Audie Smothers and the job he has done. And, not only he can run the ball, he can throw the ball downfield. Yes. And, and then we talk about Jordan Jeffries, and he is great. A great running back, but also he can come out of the backfield and catch the ball, and so it's just a big win for Pisgah as they beat New Hope and set themselves up for a big game this next week. So we'll see how that shakes out. That's going to be a great football game, and I think, and let me look at that. I can't remember if they're playing at Pisgah or if that is it's at North Sand Mountain. So it's going to be a big good football game no matter where it's at.
It doesn't really matter. They're so close.
Oh, absolutely. Next we want to talk about the Valley Head Tigers, man, and I tell you, the Valley Head Tigers kept themselves in playoff contention by beating Gainesville by a score of 28-10. So congratulations to Valley Head. I know it's been a struggle for them this year and with a new coach, but they come in and and probably I guess you can call this an upset if you want to. So they beat Gainesville by a score of 28-10. So what's your thoughts on Valley Head as they still hang in there with a chance to make the playoffs?
Well, you love to see a team be competitive like this. This was one of the only games in the paper where it really was. It was 50-50. We had a lot of people picking Gainesville, and we had a lot of people picking Valley Head. And, Valley Head went down there and competed and came away with a victory. And you love to see that, especially late in the season. They are keeping their playoff hopes alive. You'd love to see a local team like that make it to the playoffs. Valley Head's a team that not many people gave a lot of credit to. I know we don't talk about them enough on our show, but if you go back and look at them throughout the season, man, they've been competitive in almost every game. They've got a couple of losses where they lost, on a touchdown on the last drive of a game. Maybe if the ball bounces a different way in one play, then maybe they win that game. So I think this Valley Head team is very deserving of this win, and just hats off to them for going and competing and getting the victory.
Oh, absolutely. Devin Leaps, and we've talked a lot about him this year, and he had another great game and I know he had one long 43-yard touchdown run. Harrison at quarterback played well, had a couple of touchdown passes. So this team is starting to play like they're capable of playing. They have some talent on that football team. They've got a great offensive lineman in the Blancett kid who has went out to Dallas, and a lot of teams are looking at him, a big kid on the offensive line. So Valley Head has some talent on that team. I think, with a new coach coming in, it just takes a little while to start understanding a new system.
Yes.
And it seems like maybe they're starting to, catch on to that. And so, who knows? They may, I know they face Woodville this next week, and that's another huge region win. If they can beat Woodville, they've got a chance. They've got a chance of getting in the playoffs, and probably earlier in the season, nobody would have thought Valley Head would be in the playoffs.
Yes.
So that's going to be a great game as Valley Head faces Woodville. So next we want to talk about the Fife Red Devils. Fife traveled down to Collinsville and won that game. It was 47-0. This Fife team just continues to roll right along. Collinsville is not a bad football team by any means, and Collinsville, they held Collinsville in check most of the night. I know you covered part of that game, so tell us a little bit about what you saw, when you were down there watching that game.
Really, I don't want to say that Collinsville looked scared, but it was more awestruck. Like when you see a celebrity or a band you really like, and you just happen to be on the field with them, and you're just kind of in awe, and you're not really. I don't want to say everything you do is delayed, but that's really what it looked like. I mean, Collinsville had a couple people that went out there and competed. Tyler Blakely, I could tell he really wanted the ball. He stepped in front of somebody on a kickoff return and returned it and took it all the way to about the 40-yard line. And Collinsville, I think, had the right game plan. They were throwing the ball, and Grant Jones played a great game. I know that his stats aren't going to show it because I believe it was like 10 or 11 dropped passes that, he put those passes on the money and kids just couldn't hang on to the ball. But another kid, Dallas Reed, he got the ball on a speed sweep, and he broke a few tackles for a few yards. I think that Collinsville had the right game plan because if there is a weakness on Paul Benefield's team, it's their pass defense, and they had the opportunity to move the ball. I just don't think they were getting the ball to the right players. I think Blakely should have got the ball more, try to get it to Dallas Reed a little bit more. They were subbing in a lot of wide receivers, and I understand that because Blakely is your middle linebacker, and he's the only thing that slowed Fife's defense down. And then you have Dallas Reed, who's your starting free safety, and that may have been why they didn't get the ball as much. But if that's me, I'm giving the ball to Blakely and Reed every chance I get.
Oh, absolutely. We talked a lot about Tyler Blakely and Dallas Reed. Both of them are outstanding athletes, and Dallas Reed, if you can get him on the corner, he can go. So tough loss, and we knew going in, this Fife team was loaded at every position, and just talking with Coach Benefield, he called in onto our scoreboard show, and they lose their starting center last week, they lose their backup center this week, but they just continue. They plugged another, I think it was the long kid in, a 10th grader. They plugged him in at center, and he didn't miss a beat. And this Fife team just continues to roll. They face Section this coming week in a homecoming game, and they have basically locked up their region. Yeah. Now it comes down to you've got Collinsville facing Sandrock this week. They'll be traveling out to Sandrock, and so now we're playing for kind of like the Region 3 with Plainview and those. We're playing for the home field advantage in second place. So, the game with Collinsville Sandrock will be a huge football game, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in the next few minutes. But that was this Fife team, they're just clicking on all cylinders.
Man, they're huge too. This was the first Fife game I got to cover this year. Let me tell you, we talk about the Willingham twins on their offensive line, and man, they are a mountain of men. They're I promise you, there's not a better looking two offensive linemen on our team anywhere around here. And they really are. I mean, they're so big, they make the rest of the line look small, and the rest of the line isn't small. But one thing I noticed, man, I was sitting out there on the sideline, Collinsville's cornerbacks look like linebackers, and their linebackers look like defensive ends. And they're not Collinsville, I'm sorry, Five's cornerbacks look like linebackers. And, I bet they're both probably 6'2". They really are. They're just – everybody is so well built on that football team, and you can tell how Paul Benefield has had them in the weight room and had them working, because they don't get tackled and fall down. They get tackled and drag people 3 or 4 yards until they get tripped up.
Oh, absolutely. And I noticed when Fife was playing Plainview, this is one of the bigger Fife teams that I can remember. They have a big offensive line, and of course we've talked a lot about Dylan Kilpatrick is a big kid at running back. Seth Benefield is not a small guy in any means, and Mashburn is a big kid, and so they have got a very physical football team.
Yes.
So hats off to them as they play. They got homecoming coming up this week, and so but this team is just right now it looks like they're just getting themselves ready for the playoffs going forward. So next we want to talk about the Ider Hornets. They traveled down to Gaston, and a good football game. Ider winds up losing the game 42-26. But Ider had the lead in this football game, and then it was tied up at 7-7 at halftime. Ider came back and took the lead 13-7, I think, at that time. But they just couldn't seem to hang on. They got down. I think it was 35-13 at one point. They battled back, cut the score 35-26. But then, they just couldn't seem to get over the hump, and as Gaston defeated them 40-26. So, what's your thoughts on this Ider team? As they're setting it, I think they're probably 2-5 at this point of the season and out of the playoffs, and so they play Asbury this week, which should be a pretty easy win for them. But so, what's your thoughts on Ider and a very young football team?
Yes, I think Ider. The reason they're not having as much success as a lot of Ider teams in the past or even last year, their rushing game, they don't have that, ground and pound Ider rushing game that we like to think of when we think of Ider football. I know they're having to try to put some different stuff in, try to throw the ball a little bit more, and it's something those kids aren't used to. When you go, you can look at Fife. Fife doesn't throw the ball, and if you make Fife throw the ball, that's how they end up losing games. That's how they got beat in the state championship game. They couldn't move it in the run. They had to throw the ball. And that's how you beat great teams. That's how, if you're going to beat Alabama right now, that's how I would say beat Alabama. You stop their rushing game, which I know that's not something that's very easy to do. But really that's what's happening to Ider. Their rushing game is stalled, so now they're having to try to find different ways to move the ball, and that's really affecting them. And I think they don't have that, huge, powerful running back they've had in the past few years. They're really young, but this team is going to continue to improve, because I know Coach Tinker is not going to let this team, stay lukewarm. They'll continue to get better and better, and looking for this team to be better next year.
Oh, absolutely.
And hopefully they get the easy win against Asbury.
Absolutely. Braxton Laster, I know he had a 52-yard touchdown pass in the game, and when you start talking about Ider and throwing the ball, it's just it's kind of
Is that a typo? What
it's a typo. So because we're so used to this Ider team just taking the ball and pounding it down your throat. Well, like you said, it's just this is a different Ider team. They just don't have that big, strong running back at this point. They're so young there, but they've got an opportunity to get a big win this week, and hopefully can finish out the season on a high note, and and get ready, kind of build the program for next year. So. That's going to be a great football game, and so it's just a for this Ider team, I think it's just building for the future here, and hopefully they can improve going into this week. So next we want to talk about Geraldine and New Hope. Geraldine. Of course, they were New Hope lost to to Pisgah, and they're going to have a big game with Geraldine this week. Geraldine was lost to the Sylvania Rams, and that's going to be a huge game too. So. Again, it's just all these games become big now.
Yes.
Every game, every region game becomes, just like Coach Benefield had told us at the on the radio show, on our call-in show. He said that all region games are big now. They're facing section, which on paper they should blow Section out. But it's a big region game because they don't want to lose that region game and lose some momentum as they're getting ready for the playoffs.
Yes, definitely, and I don't believe that can happen to a Fife team because Fife, they're really the standard that we hold all the other teams to around here. When we want to talk about a rushing game, we'll say, they have a pretty good rushing game. They're not Fife. Or, they have a good workout program, but they're not Fife. You know what I mean? So I think Coach Benefield, he makes these kids take every game seriously, and really, I don't feel like Fife gets tested much in the season. I hate to say it, but Collinsville, Sandrock are probably their two biggest games. You can add Plainview, but they're not really region, so it doesn't really matter. But I think that's one of the reasons Fife sometimes has trouble in the playoffs because they don't really have any stiff competition throughout the season. They don't really have anything that tests them and takes them to the wire. So we don't know if this is a fourth quarter team that can hang on in the end to hang on to a lead. We don't know that yet. We'll see that in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about all the high school teams, and, it's a little odd this week. We are doing the show on Saturday morning because I'm going to be out of town the rest of the week, so we're talking about, we're not able to talk about the college games, but there is some big games at this week as we speak. Auburn is at Mississippi State. You have Texas A&M facing Tennessee, Alabama, and Arkansas, and we don't know the outcomes at this point when we're filming the show. But next week there are going to be some more great college games. Ole Miss will be traveling to Arkansas, and this Ole Miss team is one of the better. They've got two losses I think right now, and they're one of the better two-loss teams in the nation. And Chad Kelly is playing great. I did see last night where Chad Kelly had got in a little bit of trouble.
Chad Kelly.
They're open this week. He had actually went to his brother's high school game, and his brother took a shot to the head on a play, and they didn't flag him. And he actually charged the field, run out on the field, and so they had to hold him back. And I don't know how that's going to shake out. We'll see what happens, over the next week with Chad Kelly as they get ready to face the Arkansas Razorbacks, and they will be playing at Arkansas. Another big game next week is Ohio State and Wisconsin. That'll be a big game. But Alabama again, they're playing Arkansas this week, and then they have to turn right back around after a big game with Arkansas and get ready for Tennessee next week. So that's just that's going to be another big game. So we can't tell you the scores of those games because we don't know them yet.
Mud Dogs are going to win 27-22.
So hopefully, you guys will be watching those. And we're actually filming this on Saturday. We usually film later in the week, but we're doing a little early this week. So, we've kind of talked about our high school games this week. And so now, let's talk about the games this coming week.
Okay.
The first one we want to talk about, we have Crossville will be traveling down to Etowah. And, man, we talk about Crossville, and it just doesn't get any easier. They have to go down to Etowah, who has a great quarterback, a great program. Etowah won big last night against Boaz. I think they put up 56 points. So what's your thoughts as Crossville has to travel to Etowah for a big region game?
Well, I believe Etowah has a very powerful offense. Their defense is really their weak spot, I believe. They have a great quarterback. Like we said, he's already committed to Arkansas. When he played Fort Payne, on his quarterback towel, he had the Razorback insignia, and I was like, oh, man, that's got to get in some people's heads. But they have a good running back, and they can put up points. But they're not an amazing team. They're human, as to say. Fort Payne almost comes back on this team and almost pulls away the upset. So let's not count Crossville completely out yet. I believe that Etowah is probably the better team and the better program at this point. Crossville is steadily improving, and we've seen Crossville upset some teams. You go back and look; they're the only team I think that's actually competed with Scottsboro.
Absolutely,
here.
Absolutely.
So let's not count Crossville out because anything can happen, and this Crossville team has proven that they will fight and they want the victory.
Oh, absolutely, and I think playing the schedule that they've played this year. And and they face some of the better teams around the state, already. And playing Etowah, and they kind of are starting to believe they can compete. So you're right. You never know. I don't think we can count Crossville out. I do think Etowah probably is a little better team, and we'll get their picks here in just a few minutes. But it's going to be a tough ball game for Crossville. But they have improved each week, and Gannon Pointer has he's played good all year.
Yes.
Cole Cotton at running back, and so they've got talent on that football team, and so they can. You don't ever know. If Etowah comes in after a big win this week and they think, okay, we're playing Crossville, we can take them lightly. You never know what'll happen, how that can shake out.
Hey, Pisgah beats New Hope. Anything can happen.
Oh, absolutely. Next, we have Asbury. We'll be traveling up to Ider, and this Asbury team, a new program coming in, and they'll travel to Ider this week. Ider needs a win, and it'd be a region win for them, and just to build for next year. So, what's your thoughts on this Ider and Asbury game?
Well, Ider this week has the stronger program than the team they're playing. Asbury has yet to perform and play a good game. It's really because it's their first year as a football team. They're struggling, and that's understood. Kind of looked for them to get at least a little bit of something going later in the season, but they haven't. Ider, they're a well-coached football team, and I believe that's the only reason they've been in these games. They're having to change their offense, like I said earlier, and they're learning these new schemes. And I think Ider picks up another win this week. I feel like they're going to be too well coached for Asbury.
Oh, absolutely. I think you're right. And this, this Ider team, this is just what they need at this point of the season is to, to face a team that they can compete with and have a chance to not also, get a win, but also get to play some younger players and get some of these kids some experience going forward for next year. So, the next game, and this is the Mountain Valley News Game of the Week, we've got Plainview will be traveling up to Sylvania. And, man, you talk about this is a huge rivalry game. Last year's game, Plainview wins that game, I think 7-0. They drive down the field late in the fourth quarter with maybe just a couple of minutes left in the game to score, to win that game. Sylvania has improved this year tremendously as the season has gone on. So what's your thoughts as Plainview travels to Sylvania in a huge, huge region game, which, will have a lot to say about who locks in that second spot in the region?
Yes, it's funny because there's so much riding on this game, and it's such a huge rivalry. Plainview Fife is a huge rivalry, but you talk about Plainview and Sylvania, these two schools hate each other. And I know the kids like each other, and it's so close. You know everybody's name, and you go to church with them, and you play summer ball with them, and you grew up playing Little League together. But let me tell you, these two schools hate each other. I've got the opportunity. I played in these rivalries, and it seems like every year there's something crazy that happens in one of these games. It's 0-0 last year, and Sylvania drives down to about the 25-yard line. Sylvania's going to kick a field goal with about 2 or 3 minutes left and win the game. They miss the field goal. Plainview gets the ball. Their only yards of the game, basically, I think they ended up with less than 100 yards of offense, and like 40 or 50 of them came on this drive. They drive the ball all the way down to the field. There's like 1 minute left. Sam Mueller takes the handoff and jumps over Caleb Roebuck to land in the end zone. I know Roebuck scored against, I believe it was Geraldine Sylvania played. He had to go over the line over the defense for the touchdown. Sam Mueller did the same thing last year for the only touchdown of the game. So Plainview goes up that way. You go back and look at 2013, where Plainview, Sylvania always has a great game plan against Plainview. Yeah. Plainview was held to under 100 yards of offense again. Well, then I was on the team, and we're decided we're going to go for it. So we're in the huddle, and Coach Pruitt's drawing up this play, and there's like 30 seconds left, and we're down 2 points, and he's drawing this huge play up, and there's motions, fake handoffs, and we're all sitting there trying to learn this play because we've never seen it before. And he goes, just go kick a field goal. So we run out there, and Fernando Limon boots a 40-yarder for the win to go up against Sylvania. And actually, a funny fact, it was his first field goal he'd ever kicked in the game, and he thought that we were already up. And we were all celebrating. He said, "Why are y'all going so crazy? Y'all were already winning." We were like, "No, Fernando, we weren't. You just put us ahead." So there's always something crazy that happens in these games. And then to add to all that, they're both fighting for playoff spots and who's going to be where. this game is one you do not want to miss.
Oh, absolutely. Huge football game. And I hate I'm going to be out of town and miss this game because this is going to be an outstanding football game. And, both teams are playing really good right now. So this game could go either way. I think this is probably a toss-up football game. And so going to be a huge game up at Sylvania. And you get there early because that place will be packed with people. Next, and this is another huge, huge region game in 3A. New Hope will be traveling down to Geraldine. Geraldine comes in after a tough loss against Sylvania. New Hope comes in after getting upset by Pisgah. So what's your thoughts on Geraldine and New Hope? Both teams are still hanging on by a thread to get in, I guess, the playoffs. Actually, New Hope probably has a better chance than Geraldine at this point. But, Geraldine, if they win this football game, they still have a chance to make the playoffs.
Yes, and one way to look at this, only one of these teams has been beat by Pisgah, and it wasn't Geraldine.
Right.
So we know that New Hope is ranked way above Geraldine, and on paper, New Hope should go in there and just demolish Geraldine. Geraldine demolished Pisgah. Pisgah beats New Hope. So really anything can happen, and I believe if Geraldine wins this game, there's a way that a three-way tie is created between Plainview, Sylvania, and Geraldine.
I think that's correct.
Really, this toss-up region, so many things can happen, and it can be a three-way tie 2 different ways, or it can be a 2-way tie in the top 2 spots. So we really don't know where all that's going to play out. These games of this week are huge in deciding where your teams are going to play. So there's a lot riding on these games, and that'll be in the back of their mind as New Hope travels to Geraldine.
Oh, absolutely. Big game down at Geraldine. Next, we have Collinsville traveling to Sandrock, and again, it's kind of like the Plainview-Sylvania game. With the winner of this game probably takes a big step in locking up a home field advantage possibly, and so, again, Collinsville has to travel to Sandrock, after a big loss to Fife this last week. And so Sandrock had a big win against, I just went blank. They were playing. Sure I can tell you that. Oh, they're playing Section. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sorry.
So they had a huge win this week. So what's your thoughts on Collinsville? What do they need to do to get back on the winning track this week against the Sandrock team playing at Sandrock? And we both know tough place to go win a football game.
You look at this Collinsville team, they have a great quarterback in Grant Jones. I can't say enough about this kid. He puts the ball where it needs to be. He's a winner. I've never seen – he was so upset walking up and down the sideline against Fife because you really could tell that everyone was awestruck and they weren't ready to play that game, and it was killing him not being able to compete like that. I know he got hurt Friday, and we hope he's healthy against Sandrock. Now, they're all basically playing for the number 2 spot because Fife pretty much has the region locked up. If Collinsville beats Sandrock, it creates a 3-way tie between Collinsville, Sandrock, and Gaston, where Gaston beat Collinsville, Collinsville beat Sandrock, and Sandrock beat Gaston. So that's a 3-way tie, and then they'll go from there and look at their strength of schedule, who they've played, and who they've been beaten by. Because basically all these teams right now have one loss, and it's Fife. Collinsville has been beat by Gaston, though. So Collinsville would have to beat Sandrock to create the 3-way tie. Let's not count Sandrock out of this game. It's at Sandrock, so Collinsville's already losing, basically.
Right.
And Sandrock is a great football team, and since that first week against Plainview, they've really shown that they're adaptable and they continue to improve. So I don't want to say this is Collinsville's game yet, but Collinsville has great athletes, and they really need to get the ball to their playmakers.
Yeah, and I think the key to this game, like you said, is if Grant Jones is healthy, he is an outstanding quarterback for Collinsville, and they'll need him in this football game if all possible.
Yes.
I think. Next, we've got Section will be traveling down to Fife. It's Fife's homecoming, and again, Fife is kind of locked up the region now, and this Section team has been struggling. So, I think if you look it on paper, this should be a pretty easy win for the Fife Red Devils. The thing that Fife is looking at right now, and Coach Benefield talked a lot about this, is wrapping up. Of course, they want the home field advantage, but the big key I think there is staying healthy at this point.
Yes, you definitely, if you're Fife, you don't want to get anybody hurt against this Section team. I might not even make my starters dress. I may make them pay to watch the game, but this really is Fife's game to lose. Section is a struggling program right now, and I know they've got I believe it's 1 win on the season, and you're glad to see that. But this 5 team is something else, man, and I don't believe Station's going to be able to compete with them. Coach Benefield has those boys so well trained. Man, they're scary. I was on Collinsville sideline taking pictures, and they walk out and they say down, they get down, and they say hook, and they put their elbows on their knees, and the third one they put their hand down, and man, they look like an army when you see the army with their guns, and they twirl the guns and all that, and everything's in motion. It's the exact same. That's how this 5 team looks. And I think a lot of that shows in how they play as well, because they don't even think about what they do.
Right.
A lot of times they know which of their 4 plays Coach Benefield is going to call before they get down. So.
Oh, yeah. Very disciplined football team. And like I said, looking at it on paper, you'd think 5 has an easy win. And hopefully they get their starters out early in this game, can stay healthy. And again, this time of the season, man, there's bumps and bruises. Yes. And so it's a good game for 5 to be able to maybe get some players healed up and get ready for that that playoff stretch, which is not going to be an easy thing for 5. Next we have the Fort Payne Wildcats. They'll be traveling down to Albertville. Fort Payne is in a position that we haven't seen in a long time. I don't know that I've ever seen them. They're sitting at 0-7. This Albertville football team took a tough loss against Pell City on Friday night. I think the final score was 29-23. So, what's your thoughts as Fort Payne travels to Albertville? What would they have to do to upset Albertville and make their season, basically?
Well, I hate to say I don't know if it's possible, but I don't know if it's possible because Fort Payne, they knew they had a bunch of youth coming into the game. And I was listening on the radio the other day, and Coach Ellis was talking. He said of the 22 kids that we thought were going to be starters, 14 of them have moved away or quit or been injured. Yeah. So right there, I mean, that's 14 of 22 of your starters you don't have. And we knew they were going to have youth coming in, and we knew they were going to struggle coming into the season. But when you have injuries like Fort Payne has had, and you have people moving off and quitting, that really destroys your program.
Oh, absolutely.
Because now it's going to be harder for them next year trying to build a program again because they've had so many move away and whatnot, and you hate to see that happen to a program, especially one as good as Fort Payne. But, Fort Payne may be looking at a winless season. I don't know if it's too early to say that. I know it's kind of hush-hush and no one's talked about it yet. But they may not win a game this year.
You're exactly right. And, this Fort Payne team would love to travel down to Albertville and pull the upset. It is a big rivalry, and so, it's going to be a tough football game for them, but I know Coach Paul Ellis will have this team ready, and, it's been a long time since Albertville has actually beaten Fort Payne. So, it's going to be a great football game, and you'd love to see Fort Payne get a win just for a little bit of momentum and building for the future. Yes. You want to finish up the season, if you can, with a win, just to kind of build on that program going forward for the next year. So that'll be a great football game. And one of the things I mentioned on our scoreboard show, and I'll mention on this show, is the one thing that you will get to see. You travel down to the Albertville to watch Fort Payne and Albertville. Both of them have a great band.
Oh yes,
and so it'll
definitely
be a very good halftime show, and hopefully, Fort Payne competes with Albertville and makes it a good football game.
Yes.
So.
Unfortunately for Fort Payne, right now, halftime is game time.
Yeah. Next game we want to talk about, Pisgah traveling up to North Sand Mountain. And I think this is going to be a huge football game, big rivalry game,
Yes.
With Pisgah and North Sand Mountain. Pisgah's coming in after just a great win over New Hope. North Sand Mountain, they had a bye week, so they have got to rest up and get ready for this game. So what's your thoughts on Pisgah and North Sand Mountain as they get ready to clash heads this week?
Oh, it's another, just like Plainview and Sylvania. This is already a big rivalry game, and I didn't realize it, but I can remember it was like my 9th grade year. We had a bye week, and it just so happened that it was Pisgah versus North Sand Mountain. And I was like, I'll go watch this game because we play Pisgah next week. So went to this game. Man, it is a huge rivalry, and both teams want to win this game because they are so close, just like Plainview and Sylvania. They see each other. They're probably going to work together someday. They see each other at church. They're going to run into each other at family gatherings and stuff like that. So if already there wasn't enough on it, Pisgah is still fighting for a playoff spot right now.
Absolutely.
And it cannot hurt their chances if they knock off the number 1 team because they are playing like they need to be playing. Pisgah, I hate to say it, but the ball is in their court. And I know they're supposed to be the underdogs, but Pisgah has all the momentum in the world right now coming into this game. Look for Audie Smothers. He's going to dissect that defense. North Sand Mountain have a lot of things going for them, but pass defense is really not one of them. Some teams that have heard them this year, Plainview, North Sand Mountain, what do those teams have in common? They can throw the ball. So that's really going to affect them, and we'll just see who comes out on top there between the passing offense of Pisgah or the passing defense of North Sand Mountain.
Yeah. Big football game, and well-matched football game, I think. Again, this North Sand Mountain team has, and I don't want to say surprised me, but, they continue to just play well this season.
Yes.
Coach Keith Kirby has done a fantastic job with them, and then you turn around at Pisgah, they seem to be getting some momentum now, and they're starting to believe they can win. We knew they had the talent.
Yes.
I think it's just taken a while for the new coach to get his system in there, and for those kids to start saying, hey, we can do this, and we can beat the good football team. So that's going to be a great football game up at North Sand Mountain, and I think this is another one of those toss-up games that this thing could shake out either way.
Yeah.
Next we have Woodville will be traveling to Valley Head in a huge football game. You start thinking about Woodville and Valley Head, and you say, well, it's not that big of a game. But for playoff purposes, this is a huge football game. The winner of this football game probably sneaks into the playoffs. So what's your thoughts as Woodville travels up to Valley Head? Valley Head comes in with a big win, a 28-10 win over Galesville. Woodville lost in overtime to I forgot who they were playing.
Appalachia, something like that.
Yes, and I think it was 34-28, I believe, the final score of that game. So what's your thoughts on this Valley Head team as they face Woodville with an opportunity to get into the playoffs?
We'd love to see another local team, sneak in and make the playoffs. Woodville is a team I don't think we talk about enough either. I know they're not that far away on the outskirts of Scottsboro, but a couple years ago, a Woodville football program is unheard of, and I believe it's 3 years ago now they built that program. Woodville had a pretty good football team last year, made it to the second or third round of the playoffs, I believe, and they're not a bad football team by any means. Valley Head, hats off to them. They're still competing, and they're still in that playoff talk. Both these teams are definitely not the best teams in their region. You can look at Cedar Bluff. Cedar Bluff's a great team. Spring Garden. They probably have the toughest 1A region around here, I would say.
Absolutely.
But both these teams are competitors. Yeah. That's why I looked for this game to be good, because neither of these teams are going to lie down. You can see that where Woodville taking the game into overtime. The games Valley Head has lost have been in the fourth quarter, probably the last drives of the game. So I look for this to be a great football game, and it'll come down to the wire.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let's jump into a couple of college games, and the first one we want to talk about will be Ole Miss as they do travel to Arkansas. And again, we don't know the outcomes of the games from last week because we're actually still in the games. So we're filming a little early this week. But Ole Miss will be traveling to Arkansas in what should be a great football game. And again, Chad Kelly. I know Ole Miss had a bye week, so and he's in a little bit of trouble. Don't know how that will affect this game. So, what's your thoughts on Ole Miss and Arkansas, which I think will be a great football game?
Man, I hate to say it, but I like Chad Kelly, and I'm a diehard Alabama fan. But starting the season out, somebody had said that one of the other quarterbacks around here was the best quarterback in college football right now, and Chad Kelly said, "What are you talking about? I'm the best quarterback in college football right now," and I really think he is. He's really the only reason Ole Miss has been in the games they've been in. He's the only reason they were up against Alabama. He's threaded the needle. He's made plays when he's needed to. He's great at putting the ball where only his wide receivers can go and get the ball. And we talk about the trouble he was in Friday night, but that just makes me like him even more. Little bro takes a shot to the head, nobody calls it. I'm probably running out on the field too.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
I'm a huge Ole Miss fan in this game.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with Chad Kelly and the way he's played. Just some of the passes that he has thrown that just are unbelievable. And like you said, he gets them where only his player can catch them, and he has some great receivers too. Young, freshman receivers who can go up and get the football. So that'll be a great, great football game on Saturday. Also, another great football game, we have Ohio State. We'll be traveling to Wisconsin. Ohio State sitting at number 3 right now. Wisconsin, took their first loss against Michigan. And so, this Wisconsin team reminds me a lot, and I don't know, this is probably not a great comparison, but when I watch Wisconsin, I think of the Fife Red Devils. They're a hard-nosed, run-it-down-your-throat kind of football team. They want to play good defense. So, but this will be a great matchup against an outstanding Ohio State football team.
Yes, I think these two teams are exactly polar opposites with their offenses. Ohio State, they're going to throw the ball, spread you out a little bit more, run a little bit more around the corners than in the middle. They're going to use their quarterback to pick up a lot of yards. And Wisconsin, a great comparison with the Fife Red Devils. They're going to run it. I think they run a few more plays than Fife does, right. But they're going to run it right at you and say, "Stop me!" And really, Alabama is the only team that has been able to do that in the past few years, and that's what hurt their record. But I think this is going to be one of the better games we see all year, just because the two teams are so opposite, and they're both ranked in the top 10 right now as right. well. And I believe Alabama beat Wisconsin, didn't they?
That was last year. Last year. But Wisconsin they've got a great football team and playing really well. The last game we want to talk about, and this is a huge, huge SEC game coming up. And again, at the time we're filming this show, we don't know about Tennessee. They were playing Texas A&M. Alabama's playing Arkansas. Yeah. But there's a good chance both could be undefeated coming into this game. This game is at Knoxville. Alabama has a 9-game winning streak over Tennessee, and Tennessee would love nothing more than to defeat the Alabama Crimson Tide up in Knoxville on Saturday. So what's your thoughts on this game?
Oh, playing Tennessee, these games are always crazy, and you never know what's going to happen. You can go back and look at Rocky block, Mount Cody blocking that field goal to win the game. So something crazy always happens. I kind of compare this to Plainview, Sylvania, because I guess Fife would be Auburn, and Alabama, you don't like Auburn, but man, you hate Tennessee.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think that's something to prepare them to. But Alabama, probably the better team here, but you cannot count out this Tennessee team.
That is exactly right. It's going to be a great, great football game, and either team takes a big step in, again, and very possibly, if you look at this game, they could be facing each other again down the road in the yes. SEC championship, because, Tennessee is in the East and Alabama in the West. So big game either way, and so that's going to be a great football game. We've just got a few minutes left, and we need to run through our picks here and pick them for this week. And so we're going to get started on that right now. So we got Crossville traveling to Etowah. Who are you picking in this one?
I really would love to pick Crossville in the upset. I don't know if their defense is strong enough to stop this Etowah offense. We know they can put up points, but I don't know if they can stop points. I feel like Etowah's quarterback's too good. They have a running back that really complements him well. I think Etowah wins this one in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I'm going with Etowah. I just feel like, they're probably at this stage of the season, this stage of the program for Crossville, Etowah is just a little too much for them. So I'm going with Etowah to win that football game. Next, we have Asbury traveling to Ider. Who you got in this one?
Ooh, this is another good football game. Asbury could pick up their first win of the year here, but I feel like Ider is too well coached by Coach Tinker. They know what they have to do. They've won games in the past, and they know what it takes to win, and I feel like Ider wins this one.
Yeah, I'm going with Ider. I feel like they win this game big this week and, get back on a winning track and finish up the season strong, hopefully. Next, in what's going to be just a great football game, we got Plainview traveling up to Sylvania. So who you got in this one?
Oh, let me tell you, there's just something about walking out and just the ambiance of playing in this rivalry. Because both these teams, you love to hate each other in these games, and this game is going to be physical. It's going to be violent. There's going to be some busting heads, and this is going to be a really great game. And if you're not doing anything on Friday night, this is the game I would tell you to go to. And I think that Plainview wins this game.
Man, I tell you, this was a tough pick for me because Sylvania is playing good at the right time of the season. Plainview is playing good right now too. lot on the line in this football game. But you look at talent. You look at the talent, and Sylvania has talent. They have the Roebuck, and they have Dylan Dacus, and a great offensive line. You start looking at Plainview, I think they have a little more talent. And so, I'm going with the Plainview Bears in this game, but I think they win it. As I like to say, it will be a squeaker.
A squeaker. You heard it here first, ladies
so
and
I
gentlemen.
think Plainview in a squeaker. Next, we have New Hope will be traveling to. New Hope will be traveling down to Geraldine. Who are you picking in this one?
This has the potential to be a huge upset, and if Geraldine does upset New Hope, it completely upsets the balance of the world because now we don't know where anybody's sitting or where anybody's going to be. I don't think Geraldine will do it, though. I think this is a good New Hope team. They probably got their eyes woke up a little bit last week against Pisgah. So I feel like New Hope is going to go down there and take care of business.
Yeah. I look at this game, and I'm like you. I think this is one of the better football games of the week. Geraldine is not a bad football team, but I think New Hope may be just a little too much for them, so I'm picking New Hope in this game. Next, in another great football game, and man, I tell you what, they're all great football games this week, but Collinsville travels to Sandrock. Who are you picking in this one?
Oh, this one has the potential to be a great game, too. This would be another one. If you're closer to this game than you are the Plainview-Sylvania game, this would be another game to go to on Friday night because Sandrock, they're playing good football. Collinsville, they have an off week and they have an amazing week. And they'll have an off week. Well, they had an off week this week, so hopefully they'll have an amazing week next week. I feel like Collinsville, they're too gifted as far as talent goes, and I think that's the reason that Plainview beat Sandrock was because of their talent. And I think that's why Collinsville beat Sandrock as well.
Yeah, I'm going with Collinsville too, but again, this will be another one of those, as my saying goes, it'll be a squeaker.
Yeah.
And I think Collinsville squeaks out the win and takes a big step in that region. Next, we have Section traveling to Fife. Who you got in this one?
I mean, if Fife told me they were bringing their 8th grade, I'm still picking Fife because this team is just too talented. They're loaded. They're too well coached. They don't know how to lose. And I feel like Fife is going to win this game.
Yeah, I'm going with Fife. I think they'll win this game big, and and get a lot of kids will get a lot of playing time in this football game. Next, we have Fort Payne traveling down to Albertville. Who are you picking here?
Coach Pruitt used to coach at Fort Payne, I believe, and he knows them too well. And I know him and Coach Ellis are really good friends. That's why Plainview used to play Fort Payne. But Fort Payne is really down. They still haven't got a win on the season, and I don't see their first win coming this week either. I think Albertville wins this game big.
Yeah, I'm going with Albertville. This Fort Payne team, like you said, they're very coming off of the last week, and I just feel like Albertville's just going to be too much for Fort Payne. Next, we have Pisgah traveling to North Sand Mountain in another fabulous football game. So who are you picking in this one?
Oh, lightning struck last week when Pisgah beat New Hope, and I don't know if lightning strikes twice or not. Pisgah is a great football team. They have a great quarterback in Audie Smothers. North Sand Mountain, I don't believe their offense is as potent as Pisgah's. They haven't been able to put up as many points throughout the season. You can go back and look at the Plainview, the New Hope game. All those games are low. For Pisgah to win this game, they're going to have to spread the field out, and they're going to have to put a bunch of points up on the board. And you know what? I think Pisgah does it. I'm picking the Pisgah Eagles for the upset week 2.
Wow. I'm going with North Sand Mountain, and the reason is every time I have ever picked against North Sand Mountain, they have proved me wrong, and so I just can't pick against them. I'm picking North Sand Mountain to win that game. Next, we have Woodville traveling to Valley Head. Who you got in this one?
This is another one. I haven't got to see either of these teams play. I know Woodville is building a great program, and Valley Head has been competing. And the reason I picked Valley Head is because they've shown, you can go back and look at all throughout the season, that they're going to compete no matter who they play. They're going to bring this game to the fourth quarter. A lot of times they've won these, a couple times they haven't, but at least they're competing up until the fourth quarter. And I think that's something you have to do to win, so that's why I picked Valley Head.
Yeah, I'm going with Valley Head too, and I think you're exactly right. The way they have competed all year has just been very impressive, and like I said, some of those games they have lost, but they seem to be playing a little bit better each week, and I feel like it's Valley Head gets the win here and makes a big step into the playoffs. Next, we're going to jump up to the college games. We have Ole Miss traveling to Arkansas. Who are you picking in this one?
I've said it before. I think Arkansas is overrated. I think Chad Kelly goes down there and does what he does best, Hopefully Ole Miss gets their defense worked out a little bit. Ole Miss with a win.
Yeah, I'm going with Ole Miss. I just can't, this Ole Miss team is the best two-loss team in the nation at this point, and Chad Kelly, to me, is the best quarterback in the nation. Next, we have Ohio State traveling to Wisconsin. Who you got in this one?
This is going to be another great college football game. Like we said, they're polar opposites. And once again, we don't know where this team's records are or who got injured or anything like that. So, you can't really blame us. But where they're sitting right now, Ohio State is too powerful. Look for them to be in the playoff spot at some point. I'm going with Ohio State for the victory.
Yeah, I'm going with Ohio State, too. I think with the weapons they have, they can spread the ball out, they can throw it, they can run it. It's just, I think Ohio State is probably just a little too much for Wisconsin. And then the last game we have Alabama traveling up to Tennessee in a huge SEC rivalry game. So who are you picking in this one?
You love to hate Tennessee if you're an Alabama fan, and the streak's at 9 right now, and I don't believe it's stopping. Saban's going to have this team ready. I think Tennessee's going to run out of magic by this point, and I think Alabama wins this game.
Yeah. I'm going with Alabama, but I think this game will be very close, and I think it comes down to the fourth quarter like it did last year. But I think with Alabama's defense, when they have to step up, they will step up and win this football game and make it 10 in a row. And so I look for Alabama to have a big win and they continue to roll as they roll. And again, this game could roll back around again in the SEC championship game. So, man, it's been a great week of football. You know what? This week there's some big football games coming up this week. So, we just encourage you to go out, and watch your favorite team and watch the college football. And we do appreciate all of you for joining us this week. And, we look forward to being back here next week. We'll break these games down. We'll talk about next week's games, and we'll pick them. And we do thank you so much for joining us. God bless each one of you, and we'll see you again next week.